was in a relationship that was very toxic. There's a research article that I read about this Russian scientist. His name was Ivankov. What he did was he put the dogs in a cage and he would shock them. So he kept doing that repeatedly every day. So these dogs had the ability to escape, but they stuck. They wouldn't move. Like they knew they were going to
Mm.
get shocked, but they wouldn't move. And that's what was going on with me. I had this feeling of being stuck in my life. I knew that I had all the resources. I knew that I had the support. I knew that I had the education. I had the financial stability, but I still felt stuck. And if you're noticing that something is not easy for you in your life, start to take the action steps to get out of it.
You could have given up, but you didn't. You could have stopped believing, but you didn't. You could have kept living their expectations, but you decided to make this life your own. And in turn, you're here. Hello everyone, today we're meeting Zahra Adloo. She's a psychotherapist, a Reiki master, and plant medicine integration coach. Hello Zahra, thank you for joining us today.
Hello, Anna. Thank you so much for having me. I know we've had to reschedule a few times, but it's been such a humbling experience sitting with you.
Thank you. So let's start a conversation by diving into your journey of becoming the person you are today. What led you to discover your true passion in life? How did it start for you?
You know what? Throughout my entire life, have always had this innate intrinsic skill of like holding space for people, being non-judgmental, and being a good active listener. And I always attracted people to me because of that. So, I went on a journey of not even knowing what I wanted to do after high school. And life always just kept bringing me back to therapy and psychology. And I mean, I even have like two master's degrees. And the first one that I received was in management information systems. I purely didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was like, let me do something that will give me a good job opportunity. So I worked in IT and I found myself, even within that role, being this supportive manager and having people come to my desk and venting to me about their life problems. So I was like, you know what? It's like only a matter of time before I surrender to what it is that I'm actually supposed to do that actually doesn't even feel like a job. So I think when we are raised in a household that, values education and, pushes certain agendas towards us, as like a second generation immigrant, I was very confused and didn't have this like a strong sense of autonomy like I do now. So it took me a while to actually like surrender and see myself and my skill sets and my abilities and purpose for what they were and actually go towards them. So it was actually a very long path before I came
Mm.
into this role in my life.
Yeah, so it takes time for us to really realize what are skills and abilities that we hold that could be applied towards something that we love doing. Because, like you said, social pressure, like from parents, upbringing, culture, we always feel that we are obligated to go to a certain path that maybe not really resonates with who we are and what we want to do in life. So, with you finding that spark within yourself to apply your skills towards helping others in more like holistic way, I would say, uh, it also encompasses different areas. You are a psychotherapist, Reiki master, and plant medicine integration coach. So, what really helped you to discover the power of plant medicine? And maybe if you can share the experience that you had and how it helped you to heal in your journey.
Absolutely. So I actually heard about plant medicine when I was doing my yoga teacher training in India. I heard about ayahuasca and I just kept
Mm.
hearing about it. So eventually, when I went back to the States, I became very close friends with a girl whose husband was a shaman and actually served ayahuasca. And, I was in a very difficult period in my life. I was in a career that I didn't like. I was in a relationship that I didn't feel, aligned to. And I was just living this like within this internal battle within to find peace. And so I went on this plant medicine journey. I went and did an ayahuasca session, and it was beautiful. I learned so much. And that was literally my first psychedelic journey, which is really intense for most people. They don't go and do an ayahuasca journey right away. They usually start with like mushrooms or, San Pedro or peyote. But I did ayahuasca, and the one lesson that it kept teaching me was to let go and to surrender and to just be. And I didn't really understand what that was until later on in my life, where I integrated certain aspects of what I've learned throughout my journey and realized that it was just telling me to let go of control and to just surrender to what feels natural for me, and to let go of fear, and start to begin to live a life that's in harmony and not have so much fear surrounding my choices. So I decided to go back to school and become a therapist. And then when I was in my internship experience working in a substance abuse facility, and just a side note, I've never been exposed to people who had addictions to substances in my entire life. And if anything, like I went towards this path because I wanted to become more familiar with the unfamiliar. So
Mhm.
what I learned was that most people in this journey of recovery are going to recovery services on average of 7 times before they actually become sober. Now,
Mhm.
I have that in the back of my mind, and then I was introduced to a documentary titled Dose that's actually going viral right now on Instagram from what I've seen. And the Dose is about a woman who suffered from heroin addiction, who found solace in going and doing an Ibogaine plant medicine journey that basically recovered her from all her heroin addictive habits. And so basically physically she was able to completely come out of being addicted to this substance. And so that like stuck with me in my mind. And so fast forward, I graduated and I started working in my internship and in another substance abuse facility in California. And I would still notice within those 2.5 years that I was working that we would treat people and they would go and become sober for 30, 60, 90 days. And then after they were left from that environment that supported their recovery, from the therapists that were available to the aides in their sober living homes, going from that structure and then going into the real world, they were not able to sustain their addiction or their sobriety. So then they would come back and it would be another cycle. And I was like, this is crazy. Like there has to be
Mhm.
something. And so right away, I thought about that documentary Dosed. And I felt limited because I was working in a setting where I wasn't allowed to talk about plant medicine and its benefits. So, I felt like it was stripping me away from my value of being honest to people. And as a
Yeah.
therapist, we really, really like cater to this therapeutic alliance of honesty and truthworthiness and trust that helps us build this bond with our clients. So I just felt like I wasn't able to be completely authentic by not disclosing that, like, look, there is something out there that can heal you. And it may not be
Yeah.
legal in the US, but it is available in Mexico, which is nearby. And you can go and rewire your brain and you can go and recover from this addiction and also do all of the inner work that you know how to do and go to therapy and not have this like addiction cloud over your head, holding you back from all that exists within you that's dormant. Um,
Mhm.
so I quit my positions after I earned my hours to get licensed in California, and I went on a quest on my own and did my own journeys with Ibogaine, because if I want to practice something and I want to preach about it, I have to practice it. So
Yeah.
I went and I did it for my complex PTSD and my body dysmorphic disorder. And I found that, and my anxiety, and I found that it helped me so much withdraw and, break free from these habits that were circulating in my mind. Because we don't have to just have habits and addictions to substances. We can have habits and addictions that surround unhealthy patterns of behavior and thoughts. And
Yeah.
so it broke me free from those unhealthy thoughts. And I was like, this has to be something. This is something I need to talk about. And I haven't been able to not talk about it since. And so now I'm working in a facility in Mexico, and I do preparation work and integration work for people who go and want to get a freedom and, heal from their addiction and their PTSD and, anxiety and depression, and now even like traumatic brain injury and Parkinson's disease. So
Mm.
this plant medicine is super strong. It's the strongest of all of the plant medicines. Your journey lasts up to 3 days versus other psychedelics that last in your system for maybe at the most 24 hours. But it has lasting change. And there's this chemical compound that it releases in your body that basically stays in your system for 2 months at the most. And what those 2 months give you is this window of opportunity to have more neuroplasticity within your brain and develop new habits that will stick if you're doing the work. So that's pretty much like how I got onto my path. It was just all about being aware of what is the problem and then going and searching for the solution. I think with any
Right.
big a person who wants to do something big, they always look for that, like to solve a problem, whether it's in humanity or whether it's with technology. We're seeking to bring change by addressing the issues and bridging those gaps. And that's pretty much what I did to get me here.
Yes, and thank you for sharing your work. And I feel like a lot of people just not educated enough about the available, options out there to treat their addictions in particular. And a lot of times people struggle with relapses. You just mentioned like how they doing first work with a psychotherapist and then they going back to their addictions a few months later. So uh, sometimes, something like plant medicine could be used as a medicine, I would say, like not the pharmacological part of helping people, but something that maybe we still don't know how it works, but at the same time it's more natural, and in a way it helps to reconnect with our true nature. But like you said, it's not maybe considered legal in the United States. That's why people kind of like stay away from it, and they don't know a lot about the benefits. But if we can just kind of like highlight the main benefits of the plant medicine that you work with, and also if you touch upon the integration part of it. So you mentioned it takes 3 days to go through that internal journey, and it stays for 2 months in your system, then the chemical compound that helps you with neuroplasticity. And the integration part of it, like as a coach, what exactly is going to look like for people to integrate it? How do you work with them, and how do you help them to uh, incorporate that in their system so for long lasting results?
Yeah. So, well, before we even get into integration, it's really, really important to address preparation before anyone goes on this plant medicine journey. So, the very most important thing is to find a very safe facility. This is still an underground market. It is unregulated, and there are a lot of clinics out there that are practicing unethically. So, the first thing that you want to do is find a clinic that does an EKG, that does a liver panel test with you, that does a drug test with you, or urinary analysis with you. And then aside from the physical safety, you want to be psychologically safe. So you want to connect with your practitioner. You want to connect with the people that are giving you the medicine. You also want to make sure that your environment back home is secure and you have the coping skills to be able to handle the stressors of your day-to-day life. And what I mean about the environment is, you can't go and get an Ibogaine treatment as a drug addict and then go back to a trap house. You're going to be in an environment that is not supportive of your recovery and your sobriety. So it's really, really important to make sure you focus on the relationships in your life, the support that you have, and the place where you're living, and your financial security before you go on to this plant medicine journey. And then once you approach that, you want to think about, what are things that I can set in place or think about that help me cope with my life stressors. So before, alcohol or drugs are a solution to people's problems. That was a maladaptive solution for stress that people go through in their lives. Now that's not an option. So what is your solution now? Is it breath work? Is it yoga? Is it finding a new hobby? Is it attending a church or a religious practice? Something that can help give you strength in times of discomfort. Once you've gotten into that and you've had a solid understanding of where you are in that process and the prep, then you want to go on your journey, and then the integration is where the work is. This is a tool that helps you withdraw your ability to not go towards that drug anymore and not to feel like you're psychologically needing something. But when you come in and you do your integration, that's when you're actually starting to implement those coping skills and those practices that we discussed in preparation. So you take down whatever you've learned from your journey right away, write it down, or even discuss it with the facilitator that is there and have them notate it. And then start to think about how you're going to implement change in your life while using all the coping skills that you have. So maybe that could be taking a walk every morning. Maybe that could be, I need to read about something that I'm stressed out about in my life, whether it's an audiobook or a podcast. I need to educate myself. Or maybe it's a relationship that you don't feel aligned to anymore that you need to let go of. What are the processes for that? So prep is really about taking everything or integration, taking everything that you've taken or gotten from your journey and actually taking action. And the best part about Ibogaine is that it actually, what it does is it regulates, or it activates the GDNF receptors in the brain, which give you the drive and the purpose to want to grow and take action on whatever you've gotten from your journey. So you're not just sitting there and saying, oh, that's interesting, or I wonder what that means. No, it gives you this motivation to move and implement change in your life that's lasting. And that's what I really, really appreciate about this medicine. So overall, I will say, if you're looking at this plant medicine as your solution, it's not. It's a catalyst. It's a tool. What you really want to do is connect with the staff, with a therapist that's seasoned in this work, and continue to do work at least for a month afterwards, like once a week. And that's what I do with my clients. Once their journey's done, I give them a week to settle in, and then once a week, it's a must that we have to meet and basically implement these activities or these changes that come up and find ways to work towards them.
Yes, and I think that's something important for us to really keep in mind, that it's a tool, it's not a solution itself, but we have to see at a holistic point of view, an approach to prepare ourselves first with everything that we need to come back to the environment that it's safe, that it's supportive, that has everything in place for us to really prosper and see basically what is the next step in our journey of integration. And also having this willingness to change, willingness to follow up and meet with a coach and really support yourself with what else might be needing in the time of healing, right? So not withdraw and just be on your own, but using the supportive system that is there for you to implement the change in the most positive way. And also, I feel we need to kind of like, um, first start with, like you just mentioned, like what could you change in your environment right now? What can you start with in terms of like self-reflection, or maybe doing the inner work, perhaps meditation, or something that brings you to this present moment where you are willing to face with all of the emotions that are rising every day on the surface, and they require your attention to really process whatever is not healed within you. And with you really like starting going towards that healing process and having that desire for change, then like whatever might come up in my journey, I will still go through this because I have this inner motivation. I know I want it. Because if you feel like you have to, or you have a pressure from outside, then you don't have enough motivation to do it, and you can just like stop at any point and have a relapse. But with you really like acknowledging, and I think first you have to make a decision for yourself. It takes a decision from your part. Take that responsibility that it will take time, but I'm all in, and whatever requires for me, I will really like follow up. And what do you think about that?
I think most people have to hit rock bottom before they actually want to move. Like you
Mm,
have to be so low. And most people who are suffering from addiction are at their bottom, and they're like, I'm either going to have to make a change or I'm going to die. And
mm,
for me, it wasn't so much so for that. It was basically my whole life was shaken. I was in a relationship that was very toxic. And there's a research article that I read about this Russian scientist. His name was Ivankov, and he basically did this very unethical study with dogs. What he did was he put the dogs in a cage and he would shock them. And he would close the cage door and shock them every time he would put them in the cage. So he kept doing that repeatedly every day. And then eventually, what he did was he would put them in the cage and leave the door open. So these dogs had the ability to escape, but they stuck. They were stuck in their cage. They wouldn't move. Like they knew they were going to
mm,
get shocked, but they wouldn't move. And that's what was going on with me. I had this feeling of being stuck in my life. I knew that I had all the resources. I knew that I had the support. I knew that I had the education, I had the financial stability, but I still felt stuck. And it took for me having that awareness to be able to say something needs to change. I cannot live like this. There's no reason for me to
yeah.
live like this. I need to leave. I need to like seek whatever I need to do. And I worked diligently for a year. I went and did family constellation work. I did somatic experiencing. I had two different therapists that I work with. I
Mm,
did everything. And then I worked with psilocybin, which is magic mushrooms. And then I finally was like, you know what? I heard Ibogaine helps with PTSD, which is, a trauma response sometimes is when people feel stuck. And so
mm,
I went on and I did this journey, and it helped me completely change my narrative and take myself out of the situation that I was in. And so, but it took for me to feel that low and to have that fear that came up that said, this is probably what your life is going to be like. I had to say to myself, this cannot be it. Like I cannot
mm,
settle. I cannot live like this. Like, and I was at my rock bottom when I decided to make a move. And so my advice here is to not wait until you get there. Um,
yeah.
if you're noticing that something is not easy for you in your life, start to take the action steps to get out of it. And this plant medicine in general is not, like I said, only for people who have substance addictions. This is for people who literally went through trauma in their developmental stages or in their relationships and just want a new start and a fresh slate to work with that motivation behind to make that change. So Um, yeah, I would just say, don't wait. But
Mhm.
in most cases, people have to really hit the bottom and to be able to seek, which is in retrospect, actually not the bottom. It's actually the beginning to something beautiful,
Yeah.
right? Like we have, I don't even believe in good or bad. I believe in what it just is, what it is, and it's whatever is pushing you to bring change in your life. And most times we have to feel that discomfort to move.
Mhm.
Whereas now I'm like, I don't want to wait till I have discomfort. I'm going to notice something, bring it to my awareness, and start working on it right away so that I don't end up having these like really, really low feelings that, get me to where I am right now, which isn't bad, but it's always good to be proactive. And I'm putting this out there for people who are suffering because right now we have drugs like fentanyl, and it takes about 10 seconds before you could actually overdose and die. And a lot of people are
Mhm.
dying from it. So don't wait for yourself to be another statistic. If you are suffering from a fentanyl addiction or just a heroin, something very, very rough and tough to deal with, move now. Don't wait for you to lose your whole life or to lose everyone in your life, which is what's like essential for your growth, the support and community, before you make a move.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of times, yeah, like you mentioned, when people feel that they in a place where they cannot take it any longer, it's so uncomfortable that something has to change. That's usually when they start making a move. But it could be done earlier if they catch themselves having those type of feelings and unpleasant emotions and really like willing to face that and accept that this is just not bad, but it's showing you that you're maybe misaligned with your true self and you need to find that true nature within yourself to reconnect and to understand what is it that you want in life. You should have some kind of desire to create something in your life of value for yourself and others. And if you are not fulfilled with what you have currently in your life, and this is what you've created so far, and you are responsible for changing that for yourself. So from that point on, you can make a decision to do something different because whatever you've been doing brought you to this point. So something has to change.
Absolutely. We all have the capability to bring whatever we want in our lives to fruition. We all have choices that that we need to make. Those choices are not going to be easy to get you aligned.
Mm,
And you brought up values. It's important to at least know what your values are because that will help you identify whether you're in alignment in your life with what you need to. I mean, any discomfort in your body and anxiety is a signal to you that you are not
yeah.
in alignment. I mean, those are just innate and God-given gifts that we have that a lot of people ignore or disconnected from. So when you're feeling that discomfort, and you'll know the difference between like danger or like anxiety being provoked by nervousness. So you listen to that. Am I in alignment with my values? What are my values? Once you've defined that, then what changes and choices do I have to be able to live in the way that I think that I should in my life or that I want to? And then take those steps. They're not going to be easy, but one thing that's helped me was my faith, and but also listening to, and I'm not religious, I don't follow an organized religion, I'm very spiritual. But what I do is I listen to very influential thought leaders that basically have the life that they want. And all of them come down to this comment, they all have this common thread between them, that you and your mind and your thoughts are the creators of your reality. And there's even
Yeah.
neuroscience that backs this up. So there's Thara Thwart that talks about it. There's the author of Magic Mind. He's a neuroscientist and actually a neurosurgeon who talks about how it's not just woo-woo, like saying these affirmations and doing guided visualizations to get the life that you want. There is a science behind it. And so for those who question it based on, its research or based on the actual facts, I can very well say that it's facts do support this. So think what you want, implement change, and actually like make the choices that get you there. And, and if you are fear driven, if there's fear there, ask yourself why and work towards that. A lot of people don't want to accept what is. And for me, I've learned a very big life lesson that you just have to accept. You have to accept that
Yeah.
there's a fear there. You have to integrate those shadow selves, all parts of you, and accept them for what they are, because only then you'll be able to love yourself fully and live through love and acceptance and faith. And with time, you will have like this life for yourself that feels unimaginable. And I say this not only because of my own personal experiences, but also from what I've witnessed from people who I follow who are very influential thought leaders in life. And they all say the same thing. So push past the fear, maybe use Ibogaine as a tool. That's what I had to do. But do the work that gets you in alignment with the life that you are allowed to have. We are all able to dream big, and all those dreams are valid and will come true, if not better, will come for you. But you have to first let go of the fears and the limitations that you give yourself that block you from those manifestations.
Yes, definitely. And you just mentioned the acceptance. Self-acceptance is very important. And sometimes we're feeling this shame of parts of ourselves that we don't want to look at, something from the past that we used to be, we used to know, we used to behave, let's say, but it's still within us, and we have to accept for what it is as part of us, and whatever arises within our, emotional body, I would say just accept it and look at it and acknowledge its power. That's what it wants you to do. If you acknowledge its power and don't label it as being good or bad, it's just being who you are as a whole, and that will, become more stable, and like you will be at peace with everything that you kind of like with all the qualities that might be within yourself. You would be at peace, and from that point it would just be more clear on the decision that you're going to make moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. It all begins with self-love. If you don't accept those parts of you that are embarrassed, that are ashamed, that feel guilty, then you don't really
Mhm.
love yourself, and you're robbing yourself of the human experience that exists within all of us. All of us have lived with that, like embarrassment, shame, guilt, bad feelings about what we've done in our lives, and it just takes for you to be aware and really talk to those parts of yourself. That's what I do.
Mhm.
I will say, just to touch on like embarrassment and shame, I live with body dysmorphic disorder. So when I have moments of anxiety in my life, and this was before my Ibogaine treatment, but when
Mhm.
I am highly anxious, I start to pick at myself. I start to pick at my physical appearance. And what I've learned throughout time is that, those are all external factors and that they do not define who I am. So when I notice it now,
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, that's what's happening. It's okay. You're anxious, you're going through a lot of change, and you do not need to pick at yourself. Just let yourself feel the anxiety. And in the past, I used to have so much shame about talking about it. A lot of people with body dysmorphia have shame because it's a very vain illness to have.
Mhm.
But it's very valid, and it's okay for you to feel that shame, but just accept it as part of the human experience and the emotions that you're supposed to feel, that you can just gently talk to. I think in anything in our lives, there's always a darkness and then there's always a light. There's the moon and then there's the sun,
Mhm.
and there's yin and there's yang. And so we have to be able to incorporate all of it in order to feel whole and to really accept and love ourselves to the fullest.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we are just, those things will start to manifest into seeking external validation. And if, as long as you're seeking external validation for who you are and what defines you, you're always a prisoner to an external mean. You're
Mhm.
always trapped. So those intrinsic and internal validations are what you need to feel whole, to feel like you are in love with you, and so that you can radiate that outwards and attract that same energy towards you as well.
Yeah, and we sometimes don't realize we are the source of love, and their love is within us. And first, we need to reconnect and find it and start really giving it to ourselves first. And that will ripple in the interaction with other people as well. So we're not just doing it for selfish reasons, right? But it's like part of the whole, I would say, healing process. And also, it will help you to have a different outlook on life, really.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And I will mention this is something that I think society can't get enough of, that we need to hear more about. Self-love is also correlated to holding strong boundaries. So,
Mhm.
first defining what your boundaries are, and then following through with those boundaries, because not only does that give back to you, but it also gives back to the other person, because their problems are not always your responsibility.
Yeah.
Your boundaries are to be respected, and you need to know when your cup is full and when it's not. You need to know when it's empty so that you can fill it up. And when you are constantly giving and being taken from, you're not able to replenish that within your soul. And so,
Mhm.
self-love has to do with not enabling people. So if we're talking about addictions, in particular, there are people out there who enable their loved ones by giving them more of what they're craving, instead of giving them that tough love that says, no, I will not be part of this process. And I don't know what's going to happen with you, but you will have to figure it out. Right.
Mhm.
And it's so hard, because then those feelings of guilt come up, where you're feeling guilty, like you should be doing this to help the other person or to not. And in return, you're actually harming yourself by depleting your energy, but also harming them by allowing them to live out these patterns that are maladaptive for their growth.
Yeah.
So I think a big part of self-love is understanding what your boundaries are and really being firm with them. Otherwise, you're just going to, especially as an empath, you're going to be taken from, and you're going to wonder why
Yes.
you have illnesses, why while you're having so much anxiety and depression. It's all because you're not able to set boundaries with firmness and not feel guilty about doing them.
Yeah, a lot of people trying to people please, and they think that will bring them that type of, I don't know, I would say happiness in their life, because everybody's happy. I'm making them happy. I'm giving them what they want. This way, I will make myself happy. But it's usually the opposite. First, you have to respect yourself and give yourself what you need in order to be replenished, and set up boundaries as a way to show people how you want to be treated, and really follow up with that, not just saying that, right? And eventually it will become a norm and become the way people treat you, and this is how it should be. And again, like, no hard feelings. It's just we need to learn how to position ourselves, how to treat ourselves with love, respect, honor, as everybody, really like have this value and worth being here right now. So we kind of like forgot that we're here for a reason. We have a purpose to serve, and it's not to please other people or pretend to be somebody we're not and abandoning ourselves. So we have to come back to our true nature and know why we're here, find the purpose of what we're here to do, and really respect that and follow up and show people how we want to be treated. And as a result, it's just going to be better for every one of us to
Right.
interact on that level.
Right, absolutely. And you know, going back to the topic of shame, don't shame those people pleasing parts of you because those were needed at a certain time in your life. If you do define yourself as a people pleaser, that was a defense mechanism that was needed when you were a child, most likely, that helped you like survive in an environment where you had little control, where you had limitations because you were a child. And so it's also good to honor that part of you that helped you survive that childhood
Yeah.
experience. But now as an adult, you can say that doesn't serve me anymore. I'm grateful that it did at one point, but now it doesn't. And so how can I take control of my behavior so that I am no longer people pleasing, enabling, or just not respecting my own personal boundaries for the fulfillment of someone else. And so it's all you have to do is talk to yourself and, you know, say, I honor you. I appreciate you for doing what you needed to do to survive, but that's not needed right now. And so we need to change. So again, it's incorporating that inner child,
Mm.
not bringing on shame or guilt for those behaviors, but loving yourself as a whole and knowing when it's time to take a different path and make a different choice.
Yeah, everything that was in our life was probably been a coping mechanism in one way or another, and it helped us survive and go through challenges. And we just need to acknowledge it, see it for what it is, and really just accept it. And lovingly, we can just say, I'm okay right now. So from that point on, I don't need it as a coping mechanism. I can handle it in a different, more mature way of understanding of what is it that I need as an adult. And really like parenting your inner child right now, parent that you never had or you wish you would have, right? And what would you say to yourself right now with what you know? And with that understanding, you can just move forward with a different way of behaving. You don't need to repeat these patterns of behavior any longer. You can stop that.
Absolutely. And you know what? One thing that I learned when I was in yoga school, yoga teacher training, and Atomic Habits talks about this too, the book that's really like a bestseller. To
Mhm.
do something for at least 30 days at the bare minimum, every single day, that habit will be instilled in you. And
Yeah.
60 days, even better. But it takes for you to move and it takes for you to repeat certain behaviors that you want in order for it to just actually be a part of your life and to be a lifestyle. So we
Mhm.
also have to acknowledge it's not going to happen overnight. You're going to have hiccups here and there, and that is totally
Yeah.
okay. Don't shame or blame yourself. Just know that there's a process. And with plant medicines, that change is facilitated a lot faster because it actually, you know, the neuroplasticity windows are open and your brain makes new neural connections faster. But if not, if you're not taking that route, do something for at least 30 days every day and watch how your life changes and watch the benefits. And from that dopamine rush and that like excitement and fulfillment you feel, you're going to start to do that with other things in your life. And that is how you become more evolved and more centered around your full capabilities as a human on this earth and to fulfill your purposes.
Definitely. I'm so glad we had this conversation. Thank you so much for joining. And for those who would like to connect with you online, how can they find you?
So you can find me on my website, www.zahraadloo.com. That's ZAHRAADLOO.com. I actually have a freebie that I offer people that tests them to see if they're ready to go on a plant medicine journey. So be sure to subscribe and you'll get that. But you can also connect with me on Instagram. I'm very active there. And that handle is ZEESHIRAZI. So you'll be able to kind of get to know me as a person. I think that's really, really important. And if you feel connected and you feel that I can be of service to you, reach out to me and maybe we'll have a plant medicine journey together that I can help facilitate with you and help integrate you into.
Definitely. And I will also include that in the show notes as well. And as we close today, what would be the final thought for our listeners?
My final thought would be awareness is enough. Just have the awareness of what needs to happen and then let your life and the things that present to you in your life guide you to get you to where you want to be.
Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy your day.
Thank you so much, Anna, for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, hit the subscribe button and share it with others. Stay tuned.